Okay, Rabotai, we're going to start the Hilchot of Gino B'Chotzer B'Shabbos. We're in the Tzurba. We're on volume 19. We're actually in the final shear of this volume 19, the Lax Family Edition, the Aram Family volume, on Hilchot Shabbat. The next time we meet, we should be starting with volume 20 if we finish this year. We might only get halfway. But Lamaisa, this year is very apropos for this month of the year that we're in, as it's about the outdoors, and we're going to be spending Sukkot outside. So a lot of these halachot are actually sources that are found in Masechet Sukkot. So let us start with actually a source in Masechet Moed Katan. We're on page 299 in the Tzurba, and we have a machlokas in the Gemara about somebody who waters the ground on Shabbat. So there's whether there's seeds or not, he's watering the ground. Seitmar Haminachesh Hamashke. So someone who pulls out weeds, right? Or he waters the seeds, Mayim. There's learned Shabbat. Meshumai Matrinin Bet, right? There are some opinions that say that when you give Hasra, when you give warning, you have to say which malacha they were being over. So the Gemara's question is, the person is watering the ground, which malacha do you warn him for? So Rava says, Meshum Chayrish. Now what's Chayrish? What is it? Plowing. So how is watering the ground plowing? So we'll see in a second. Rav Yosef says, because of Zareh, which is planting, right? Which is sowing. Okay. So Amar Rabba says, my opinion makes more sense because my darko shel chayrish. What's a darko of chayrish? It makes the ground soft, and you put water on the ground, you're making it soft. Haninami. So too here. Amar Yosef. He says, no, my opinion makes more sense. My darko shel zareya. It's to help make something grow. Hachinami. So same thing here. You're putting water on the ground. You're making something grow. So is machlokas. So the question of the Gemara is, to each one, why don't you say the other way? Why can't we say it's this way and that way? Why can't we say it's both? Top of page 300. So if you're going to say that we usually don't say you're going to be chayav on two, well, that's not entirely true. Because there's a case of Rav Kahana, Zoymer, the tzarech le'etzim, a guy prunes his tree. So he cuts off a branch, but he cuts off the branch and he wants to use that branch for firewood. So he's chayav for two. He's chayav for cutting and he's chayav for kaitzer, for harvesting and for planting, because he is fixing the tree to make it work better. So mishum noteya ve'ach mishum kaitzer. So you see, you could have two malachos that you can be over when you do one action. So the Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos, Perek Ches, Halacha Beis, he writes as follows. He understands that the conclusion of the Gemara, person who waters the ground, v'ilonos, b'Shabbat, harei zeh tolda tzoreya. Says the Rambam, Tolda Zureya. It's a Tolda of planting, not Chorish, not of plowing. So the Arizarua picks up on this. Arizarua says, if we're saying that it is planting and not plowing, it's Zureya, not Chorish. Take a look at the top of page 301. Therefore, he says, Hilka Chasha, Shepashashnu, Shalach, Rabbi Yosef, Mutter Lishboich Mayim al Gabe Karka, She'en Zerua. So says the Aizarua that if you are putting water on a ground that you know cannot grow anything. So I was thinking, what can be an example?
So it's allowed.
Oh, wait. Or if, hold on. What's an example? An example would be sometimes you have under the deck. Under the deck, you have some space there. You have storage and stuff like that. Most times, nothing really grows in there. So that ground that doesn't grow, if I put water on there, if it's all because of growing stuff, if it's all because of Zareya, then it doesn't grow. Then it should be okay to put water there. But if you're saying that it's charesh, right, then it's still going to be a problem because you're still making it soft, and that's still like plowing.
But it is okay. In the house, on those days, they used to put a little bit water.
Sprinkle. We said spraying water.
Yeah.
That's very different. Spraying water and putting water is two different things.
How much water are you going to put?
They're talking about putting water. Okay.
Wood sand also
It's
softening. You can't grow in either case.
right. You still have lush there. You have an issue of lush. That's correct.
More likely Zorea and Horesh. Because Horesh.
That's what the Rambam says. That's what the Arzarua says. But look at the Sefer Yerim.
I'm saying Horesh is really flour. You have to.
No, so anything that makes the ground softer is considered chayrish. That's a total chayrish. So Sefer Yerim says, I don't know why we're poskening like Rav Yosef. Okay, so the Gemara left over with the Shayla. Gemara didn't say who the halacha goes like. So he says, "Oh, maske, meisik abaya the chay mishum chayrish umishum zareya." In source number 4. So according to the Sefer Yerim, yeah, it's both. It's zareya and chayrish. So the Sha'ar Tzion says, "V'lefi zeh yesh lizar gamba karka shein zerua." So he says, the Sha'ar Tzion says we should be machmer, and we shouldn't put water not in ground that could grow and not in ground that can't grow, because it could be plowing and it could be planting. So you want to stay away from putting water onto ground. So the Sefer Truma in source number 6 is a rishon. The Sefer Truma says, if this is true, then how are people eating outside on Shabbat? People would go and eat outside, right?
Be very careful.
How are you going to wash your hands? How are you going to eat? How are you going to drink? Things are going to fall on the floor. You can't make a picnic. You can't make a picnic on Shabbos. Okay, so we'll see in a minute.
That's the halakha.
Yeah. You can't put water to the ground. You can't put water to the ground directly. You can't put water to the ground directly. Says the Shulchan Aruch. Take a look at the Shulchan Aruch. Take a look at the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says you want to eat in the gardens. Certainly tell your dayim, you're not allowed to wash your hands on the grass that grows there, because then you're giving them to drink. Even though you're not having kavanah for that. Why? Because it's a psik ratio. It's a psik ratio.
If there's nothing there,
right? But if you're going to be machmer like the Sha'ar Tzion, which is to be machmer for chayrish also, so then you wouldn't even do it on non-grass. Okay. So we'll see. Oh, wait a minute. It says the Ramah. Says the Ramah, exactly what the Sefer Truma says. Right? You shouldn't eat in the fields. You shouldn't eat. Because it's very hard to make sure that no mayim will fall. Okay. Now, the Sefer Truma, in the same piece that we saw earlier, continues and says that maybe not all liquids are equal. Maybe only liquids, in source number 8, maybe only liquids that can help grow the grass or help actually something to happen, that would be the liquid that's an issue. But pouring wine or urinating over grass or over the ground, which both, he says, the urine was used to remove stains, and wine you also know is corrosive. It's not good for the ground, not good for the things. So he says maybe that liquid is not a problem. Now you have to think about it. Going back 100 years ago, there were no bathrooms. Okay, there were no, you make a bathroom. You had to pee. You found a private area and you peed. So you needed this halacha. Otherwise, where would you make? So the Maisa peeing on grass is or pouring wine. Yeah. It's not a problem.
But wine I don't understand, because wine
it's corrosive. It's
no, but they say wine is good for all the what they did in the Bet HaMikdash, the Nisuch HaYain was good for the Chaklaim.
That was Nisim and Blood.
What?
Dam.
לא, יחד גם היין, ביחד.
Okay, that's the Sefer Truma. Says the Shulchan Aruch the same exact thing. The Shulchan Aruch says, "Al mutter lehitul behem mei raglayim or shar mashkin she'enam mitzamim." Only any drink, any liquid that won't help for it to grow, you're allowed to pour it onto the ground. Okay, it's Magen Avraham says no. You should be careful even with any type of liquid. The Mishnah Berurah says the Chatchil you should be careful with all the liquids. He says that wine is okay according to Eli honey water or beer. Interestingly, beer apparently helps stuff grow. So you have to make sure not to pour that. Now, this is the question of Chaim had. Chaim's question was, you keep telling me about growing on grass, so you're talking to me that it's Zoreah. The issue is of planting, not of Choresh. So that is the question of the Bir Halacha. The Bir Halacha says, Kash that he brings down. If you said it goes to Choresh Gamkain, so why are you telling me, am I costed to be Yain Mutter? Why are you telling me all that's mutter? I'll go upon him. You're still making the ground soft. If he's chayiv mishum chayresh. So the Bir Halacha wants to give an answer. And he says in the end that this is a daichik answer, but his answer is Shem Yesh Leimar Yalaimru V'Zeh Mishum Chayesh Rak Heichi Dehumoyel, that it's helping to grow. But here, where it's a damager, meaning that it's corrosive, it's not good for it to grow. The urine is not good for it. The wine is not good to grow. So even though you're putting it on, you want to say chayav mishum chayrish, but since in the end of the day, it's really not. The whole idea of plowing is to get it to grow in the end. So if you're putting something that's not going to let it to grow, then it's not can be considered chayrish either. But he says in the end of Udoichik, it's still the Udoichik answer with Tzarchiyun, and it needs further in why we would allow this. But that is the halacha up until this point. Let's move on. One more issue. Okay.
When they say it is helping for the choresh, it means if you do the charisha right after you put the water, then it's helping. But if you just put the water and you don't do any charisha,
right? So charish. So if I actually make a hole in the ground, I plow and I don't put anything in, so I'm not chayav al charish.
Well, you are digging.
So it's the same idea. If I put something, it's the same thing. It's a tell of it. It's the same exact thing.
When you dig in
but it's the same exact thing. It's a tell of it. Okay. Now the Bir Halacha says, that he brings some at Tiferet Yisrael that says that they found out today through scientific methods that urine apparently is very good for the ground. It helps fertilize the ground. So maybe today, now that we know this, maybe we shouldn't allow urinating. Number one, we're saying. Number two, we know for sure. We're talking number one now. So that's what we said. But now Tiferet Yisrael says that he says I looked at the research, and the research I don't know what scientific research said today, but it was just Tiferet Yisrael said in his time. He said that it comes out from what he knows is that it does help it grow. So maybe it should be usher now. So he writes in the Bir Halacha, but the world is not machmir on this, even though we know today. In fact, here in the Laws of Shabbat, Rabbi Nachson, he writes over here on page 324 and footnote number 15. Tiferet Yisrael noted the claims of modern scientists to the contrary. Urine fertilizes the ground. However, the Bir Halacha notes that the widespread practice to permit still urinating on the ground. And he brings here from the Tzurba Tedeshin, who states that we should not rely on modern scientific findings to rule against halachot established by the Gemara. So if the Gemara established an halacha, that halacha stays there, even if modern understanding of science shows otherwise, even to rule more strictly. Okay? Therefore, once halacha is established, the permissibility of urinating on vegetation on Shabbat, it remains permissible even in the face of scientific revelations concerning the beneficial efforts of urine in promoting the growth of vegetation. So interesting, Tzurba Tedeshin on this Tiferet Yisrael, that even though you know today that it does help, the Gelach and the Gemara remains the same. Okay, so this is something that Daniel mentioned before.
It helps or it doesn't.
All vital for
According to the Gemara, it
According-
doesn't.
no.
Therefore, it's mutar. The Gemara.
That's it. That's halacha. Yeah. Okay. Now, pouring water on the ground is asur, says the Shemir Shabbat Chodam. Therefore, it's based on the Gemara. Yeah.
This says watering.
No, that's what you saw. This doesn't have that part. Doesn't have it.
It's very good, but it's too concentrated. It'll kill plants, but it's good in general for the ground. But if you urinate on a plant, you might kill the plant.
That depends how diluted the urine is.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
No, because it's also at the time.
Let's not get lost. I will tell you. Source number 14. Source number 14. Shemir Shabbat Kilchata says. A person should not eat in the garden because you're going to end up pouring something there. So now he says, so someone is eating in the garden. Here, your sukkah connection. Okay, so you have your sukkah, and your sukkah, guess what, is on the ground. It's on earth. So what to do? They have to be very careful. Okay, put it into a bowl, right? And why did that help? Putting it into a bowl?
Not direct.
Because it's a psik reisha ayidei grama. Psik reisha ayidei grama would be okay. Since it's first hitting the bowl or hitting the cement, then hitting the ground. So I really don't care about it. I don't want it to go on the ground. It's not my intention. It's not my kavanah. So if it goes on the ground via grama, that's a psik reisha ayidei grama, and that would be okay. Or the other thing, like Rabbi Daniel mentioned, was you can throw down a plastic mat, okay, or one of those fake grass type of things over there. So then it won't go straight onto the ground. And if it hits that and hits the ground afterwards, then that's fine. That's al yidei grama. Okay. Okay, that's next. Uprooting grass. That's the next section.
Is it not watering as well? You're pushing the water into the ground. It has whatever moisture on top, and you're pushing it in.
No, we don't say that. And it's not to us.
Your kavanah is not for that.
Yeah.
No, not your kavanah.
Okay. I don't think I don't think you're pushing down as watering it.
No, like when you walk on the grass, you get like squished, you know?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I am saying as watering the ground, you're not. When you put water on the ground, the water goes into the ground. You cannot force water in. I mean, that's my understanding of the situation. Can I force water into the ground? I water it, and there's water. Yeah, if I stomp on the water, it's not. It's the ground can only take as much water as it can. Afterwards, that's why you get floods, right?
Let's say it's like dew on the actual grass, right?
Yeah.
And back for a lot back there, it's gonna be wet. It's moist, so it's not like.
Well, it's going to be a dov shenim skavin, so it's going to be fine. It's not your kavanah, right? Okay. So you take a look at the Shemir Shabbat Kilchata in source in page 305 in Zion. So there he talks about the sink, right? So the sink has a pipe that goes out to the grass, but that's okay because it's sink there shali de grama, hitting the sink walls, going through the pipe, and then coming out on the grass. And as long as it's not your kavanah, that would be fine. So very important. So, you want to wash your hands outside? You can't wash your dime on the ground. Shabbat Yom Tov, the same thing. Okay, you would have to wash it on the cement and then let the cement run it down to the ground.
You have the pipe. You know the pipe is going to your garden.
Yeah, it's okay.
And you still need to.
Yeah, because it's particularly de grama. It's not. I have no kavanah for it to go. If your kavanah is to go there, then you have a problem. You can't do it. But if your kavanah is not doing, just want to wash my hands.
You know it's going there.
That's fine.
And you have a different solution. Go to the house. Do your netilah over there.
That's the next paragraph, מה שהוא שואל.
Yeah, read it.
הנזייה נמצאת בגינה שריאות המים יישפכו לגינה היכולת להצמיח ישירות ולא דרך צינור, אין לשתות ממנה בשבת.
That's talking about a water fountain.
Right, אם אין צינור.
Yeah, if you have a water fountain, right, you have to be careful with the water fountain. The water fountain, if it's a permissible water fountain you can use, the water comes out. Whereas, a lot of times you go to the park, all around the water fountain is wet, right? If there's ground over there, if it's earth, it's going to be a problem.
If you wash your hands and the water goes with the tzinorot to the garden, you say it's okay because it's a psik reisha.
Yeah, psik reisha, I think grama. It's a grama. That's the thing.
It's a grama, but you know the grama is going over there. It's not like you don't know it's going to go there. You know it's 100% going to go over there.
What's your kavanah?
At the end, missing the bowl. Missing the bowl. Huh? Just one pipe, that's it, and make it go into there?
Yeah.
Yeah, read the 7.
Listen, if you
One poured into a sink, flows through a pipe to sown ground, washing one's hand in the sink, pouring water into it for another purpose on Shabbat is permitted. Because it's a secret grama. Okay. As long as not your kavanah. If your kavanah is to plant, then you can't do it. All right, that is on watering. Let's move on to our next section, which is uprooting grass. Okay, so sometimes I walk and on the grass, and maybe the grass gets uprooted. So that's kaitzer, toilish, right? Which is the toll of the kotzer. So can one walk on grass on Shabbat? So the Gemara Sechet Eruvin. Amarami barab amrabasi. Also, the person cannot walk on grass on Shabbos, as it says in Mishlei. If someone walks quickly with his feet, sins. So walking on grass could be a problem. And Tanichada muter leilech, you could go on Shabbos on the grass. So which one is it? Is it aser or is it muter? So the Gemara wants to give a couple different answers. The Gemara wants to say, well, it depends. If it's fresh grass where it's not going to come off, then walk. If it's dry grass that's very likely to get separated, then you can't. The Gemara says, no, maybe they're both when they're dry, but here's when it's in the summer and here's in the winter. Summer is more likely to fall off, winter is less likely to fall off. And if you want to say they're both in the summer, maybe here's where he's walking with shoes and here he's not working with shoes. So it depends, shoes or not shoes. Maybe in both cases it is shoes. Maybe one shoe has spikes on them. Maybe one shoe that doesn't have spikes on them. And maybe that's the difference. Or maybe no, the grass is different. Maybe one, the grass is short and you walk not going to get entangled into your shoe and whatever it is and come off. And maybe the other case is where it's the grass is long, it's going to get entangled into your feet and it's going to come off. And then the Gemara says, the truth is that we hold the Reb Shimon. And Reb Shimon holds that what? Davar Shem Mitzkaven would be okay. As long as it's not 100% going to happen that grass is going to get uprooted, then you don't have the kavanah to uproot it, then it's okay to do it on Shabbat and walk on it. So in all these cases, says the Gemara, that since it's not 100% sure that you're going to walk and it's going to get uprooted, then it's going to be okay to walk on this grass.
Same idea with when you have a dog, say a bunch of ants on the floor. There's a whole colony of ants on the floor, and you're walking. You're definitely going to step on one of those ants.
So you're saying you're definitely going to uproot one of the grasses. Eventually, the rule of the law of large numbers. Eventually, it's going to happen, right? So there is talk like that. You want to take a look at the at source number 9, but let's first look through the machloket. So the Shulchan Aruch writes you're allowed to walk on top of the grass, whether it's dry, whether it's fresh. Because he's not having kavanah to separate the grass. He's not having kavanah for that. So the Mishnah Berurah says, if you're going to run through it, you shouldn't run through it because that's going to uproot it. And the Aruch HaShulchan says, I don't care if you run through it, I don't care if it's short grass, long grass, barefoot, not barefoot. It's always considered a davar she'eino miskaven, and you will be allowed to walk on that. Now, on the footnotes, in number 9, on page 309, he says that perhaps the Mishnah Berurah holds that this is a psik reisha, since at least one of the blades of grass will be uprooted. Meaning, if I'm going to walk through a whole field, it's very likely, right, that something's going to be uprooted. Where the Aruch HaShulchan, he takes a look at each act, meaning each step. You can't tell me my next step is going to make it. It's not 100% sure the next step is going to be. Right? That's the Aruch HaShulchan Mishnah Berurah. Do you look at the whole walk and say it's eventually one going to come up, and that's going to be a real psik reisha, you shouldn't walk there? Or do I look at each step? And each step, you cannot tell me 100% this next step is going to be what's going to come up, where it's going to get uprooted. And therefore, it's not a psik reisha. Never she'eino miskaven, and you'll be allowed to walk on it. And that's the way we paskin that we would say it's not a problem. You can walk there, even though if you walk the whole field, definitely something's going to come up. Each step is considered davar she'eino miskaven, and it's okay. There's Shulchan.
If it's dry or it's this, it's that.
Yes.
Why are we going after against the Shulchan Aruch?
No, Shulchan Aruch didn't say either or. Shulchan Aruch said, whether it's fresh, whether it's dry, keep it she'eino miskaven l'klosh. That's all. Mishnah Berurah wanted to say that it's not considered davar she'eino mitkaven if it's gonna be, that something's gonna get uprooted.
Where do you say something don't run? Where do you read that?
In the Mishnah Berurah. Shlo yirtzor, lo yirutz aleinu. Then it's like Resha, because if you run through it, then it's definitely going to. So the Rosh says no. He says you don't look at the journey, you look at the step. I mean, that's the way you want to explain it.
This guy put this like soccer goals and he plays soccer all the time on selling. So according to this, he has what to rely on.
No, but when you play soccer, for sure you are going to cut it because the way you are shooting the ball,
Professional.
yeah. No. I used to
Yeah,
play,
we did.
for sure.
We did talk about the issue of playing marbles on the floor and stuff like that. Any bowl game shouldn't be played on.
Huh?
Right.
אתה אומר, שלא מתכוון.
Well, it's not going to go into the dirt either.
Sometimes they wear spikes, sometimes they don't.
Right. I would say bowl. Well, first of all, bowl on Shabbat is one issue. Then is the issue of the earth, and then is the issue of the grass. Very recommended not to play these games on Shabbat. At least, definitely not on earthen, on regular ground. Okay.
Is it?
The what?
No.
These that they're doing.
Playing ball.
If the earth is going to get flattened, which is mean you're playing on an earthen floor.
No, that's not it.
Grass, it's not going to get flat.
Why not?
No, it doesn't.
If it is going to flatten the earth, then it's going to be a problem. Yes.
Otherwise,
Still, we not to play marbles, not to play bowls on the ground. Okay. Okay. Let's moving on to smelling fruit and flowers. Smelling fruit on flowers. Can one smell fruit that's attached to the tree? Can smell fruit, flowers. Someone's walking by and there's nice mint planted in the ground. Can I smell it? Can I take it and smell it? So let's see. Again, Gemara Masechet Sukkah. Wow, we're learning Hilchos Shabbat. We didn't come to many Gemara Masechet Sukkah. Right now, right before Sukkot, it's already our second one. I'm a Rabbah. Hadas b'mechubar mutar l'erechbo. If hadas is connected to the ground, you're allowed to smell it. Etrog, if an etrog is still connected, also l'erechbo. You're not allowed to. My time. What's the difference between a hadas and an etrog? They're both part of the Harba. So, you know why? Because if you allow me to smell a hadas, I'm not going to come to cut it. Right? It's not something. What am I going to do when I cut it? I can smell it out here, and that's it. I don't have to go take it with me. But an etrog is not just to smell. An etrog apparently is la'achila. And how do you eat it? You don't eat it off the tree. So what you're going to come to? You're going to come to cut it off. So therefore, don't smell the etrog, because the etrog's purpose is to eat. So you might cut it to take it to eat, and that's going to be a problem. So fruit that's attached to a tree, you can't smell. And whereas hadassim that are attached, or flowers that are attached, will be okay. That's the Shulchan Aruch. Hadas mechubar mutar l'reich boy, aval etrog v'tapua v'kol davar roi la'achila also l'reich boy mechubar shema yikotza to la'achol, because maybe you're going to cut it off to eat it. Okay.
The tulip or whatever is better when it's connected to the ground, whereas the fruit's better if it's in your stomach.
Okay, fine. Yeah, if you want to say that, fine. It works out. Now, the Mishnah Berurah notes that some people want to bite the fruit while it's attached to the ground. So it's attached to the tree, and they're biting it. Is that considered detaching and cutting from the fruit from the tree on Shabbat? So he says, he says there's no bigger tlisha than this. You can't. And he says further, he says you have to make protests. He says he sees people on Shabbat and Yom Tov that they're going to the orchards and they're taking fruit off. And then they're eating it on Shabbat. And he says you put up guards. And you should put people there to stop people from taking fruits down. Apparently, this was a thing that people would detach fruits.
stealing also.
Today in the Alka Joseph as well, he writes, in any event, all the posts can read it's forbidden to pluck fruit with one's mouth on Shabbat. If someone sees others doing this, he should rebuke them and explain that it's forbidden. Even though you want to say, it's the shinui. I'm doing it with the shinui. Right? What's the shinui here? The shinui, what exactly is the shinui? Taking down my mouth, but why am I taking it down? I'm taking it down to bite it, or I'm taking it down to take it down. I don't know. Anyway, can't be done. You cannot take it down with your mouth. And therefore, if you see it, you gotta protest it.
Trying to avoid muktzeh, but if you get muktzeh, you're doing a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Smelling flowers is permitted when they're attached to the ground. If they have flexible stalks, which should not become stiff, you can even move them back and forth as long as you're very careful not to detach them. But smelling fruit, that would not be permissible. Okay, I just want to see if I missed anything here. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, so that's with smelling fruit and flowers. Now we come to a very important one. And this, that's not to say anything else, not important, but this is something very important, which is a lot of people are not aware of this Isser. Using trees on Shabbat. Somebody wants to tie his shoes. He sees a tree, puts his foot on the tree to tie his shoe. He just did an Isser. Someone has a sefer, he's carrying it, and he wants to put it down for a second and puts it down on the tree. Isser. Anything that's over 3 tefachim from the ground. Okay? But a lot of people don't know this. They lean on trees, they sit on tree stumps and stuff like that. Let's take a look. Yeah, if you're supporting yourself on that tree, then that's going to be awesome.
Doesn't matter if the tree's moving or not.
No. Yeah. If I would take away that tree, you would fall, then you can't lean on it that way. If you need it for a little bit like this, like that, that's okay. If I take it away, you'd still be standing, that would be okay. Let's take a look. These are a shivut. This is an Issa Derabanan, which is one may not climb a tree. Why can't one climb a tree? Because perhaps something will become detached while he's climbing the tree. So this is an interesting.
They changed the whole thing from climbing.
Look at Gemara and Erevin. Look at 27. Look at source 27. Look at source 27. Maseches Erevin. It's the same Talmud. What does the Gemara say? Anything that's 3 tefachim high, even if it's only 3 tefachim high on one side, and the other side still down on the ground, right? You cannot. Right? You cannot sit in it. And you can't even hang from a tree, and you can't lean on a tree, and you can't go up and sit there on Shabbat. You can't do this. All these things is fair. Okay, so what does that mean? Lean
on the ilan.
Yeah, all these things you can't do. It's a fair Talmud, fair Gemara. Fair Gemara. It's not that we added stuff.
But it's not the halacha.
Of course it is. It is the halacha. It is the halacha. You cannot lean on a tree on Shabbat. That's the halacha. Can't place something on a tree on Shabbat. You cannot sit on a tree.
It's not, but it's not zera like zera.
Any tree. Even if it doesn't move.
What would be the problem?
It's the Gzerah D'Rabbanan of Tolush, of detaching. That's the Gzerah. Okay. Let's take a look. All right. There is a Gemara, Erevin, as it continues. And it says, Im Allah mutaliyar. If you went up, you're allowed to come down. Tanachad Aser. One says, no, you're not allowed to come down. So what's the story? You know why? If it's still Friday, you can come down. He went up on Friday, come down on Friday. Once it's already nightfall, then you can't come down. Or maybe he went up by accident. I didn't mean to. And so since he went up by accident, he can come back down. But if he went up on purpose on Shabbat, then he definitely can't come down. And some say, even if he went up accidentally, perhaps he made a penalty, a knas. Because if you're going to let you go come down when you went up accidentally, maybe you're going to come down when you went up on purpose. So we're not going to let you there, or maybe we don't make this knas. Let's take a look at the Shulchan Aruch in source 29. Okay? Who wants to read this this Shulchan Aruch? Rav Chaim, read the Shulchan Aruch, source 29. Okay, you don't climb a tree, whether it's green, whether it's dry, and you can't hang from a tree. Nor can you lean on a tree. Cloud. That's right, cloud, completely, ever. You can never lean on a tree. Okay, now we're going on to Alav Ilan. Okay. Let me. Okay. So he goes any further about leaning. Hold on a second. Let me see if I put something. I wanted to put something out here. Here. Just want to read from the laws of Shabbat for a moment. It's forbidden to lean against a tree on Shabbat in a manner that if the tree was suddenly taken away, the person would fall over. Okay? One may touch a tree or even lean lightly, then it doesn't support his whole weight. So if I'm not supporting my weight, I can touch the tree. But I cannot lean on the tree. Even sitting on the tree, I can't do. Even in this tree stump, I can't do. As long as it's 3 tvachim above the ground, you would not be able to sit it. Now, if the tree stump is dead, that everybody knows it's dead, then it's permitted to sit on it. But if you don't know it's entirely dead, and how do you define dead? Because sometimes the tree stump doesn't grow anything, but it's still getting nutrients from the ground. Perhaps that's not considered dead. Some want to say if it's not growing anything, then that's considered dead. But there's different opinions. So I would say stay away from it unless you know it's completely dead. You should not sit on the stump if it's 3 tvachim high. You read this? Which part?
This book, I don't know where you read.
Again, it's usher to lean against a tree on Shabbat in a manner that if the tree was suddenly taken away, the person would fall over. Meaning you can't put your whole weight on the tree. But if you would just touch the tree for a little this, little that, that's okay. But you can't lean on it. You can't support yourself on the tree. Okay, and then you cannot sit on a tree. Whether you can't sit on a tree, right? If it's 3 tvachim high, you cannot sit on a tree unless the tree stump is completely dead. Then you'll be allowed to sit. But you have to really know that it's dead.
Maybe officially a tree house or something that still doesn't help.
It's on the tree. Can't. It's a tree. Can't go on a tree. The whole issue is Gzeir Shamitlash. You might come to detach. If I'm on a tree house, I still might come to detach.
I'm not going on the tree. It's built on the tree. You're going now on the whatever you built.
Okay, I don't know. I didn't learn about a tree house. I don't know. Something we could be looking into. But from what I learned, I don't see the difference. The Gzeir is Shema Yitlash. It's that you're going to come to detach. It can still happen even if you have a tree house. I'm climbing up. I'm touching this. I'm touching that part of the tree. That is part of the tree. Still a problem. Okay, now we come into the other issue of climbing a tree on Shabbat. So if a guy climbed a tree on Shabbat, he's permitted to climb down if he went up on purpose, on accident.
There it says an old man. If you're looking at the old man over, that's why I asked him to repeat it again. He's talking about if a person moves, will he fall? So by a young man over there in that book, it differentiates. Yeah. By a young man, he says he's allowed to, and an old man is not allowed to. That's why it says it in that book. That's why I wanted to hear what you said.
So you're saying he's being metallic, old and young, and he's putting his whole support or not?
Right.
But the truth would be, even if he's young, but he's putting his whole if he's leaning to that extent that his whole support is on it, then that would be a problem. Okay. Now, so if he went up on accident to the tree, he climbed the tree accidentally on Shabbat, he forgot about Shabbat, whatever it was, he's allowed to come down. He went on purpose. He has to stay there the whole day. Stays up there. He needs to sit there, you pass him a city, you give him food. He's not allowed to come down. All right, we're going to allow him to come down, by the way, if he needs to pee, or if he is dangerous, let's say he's going to doze off and fall down, or something like that. We're going to let him come down. We'll see Rav Shlomo Zalman in a moment. Rav Shlomo Zalman says it's probably better for him not to stay up there. We'll see that in a minute.
Come down and go back up again?
No. He's going to we'll see what Shlomo Zalman is going to say. One second.
Punishment? Is that punishment?
Yeah, it's a knas. Stay up there. You went up on purpose, you stay up there now. Okay? Enjoy our job is to the tree. Okay? Now, if you went up on Friday, right? Went up on Friday, and then for whatever reason he Shabbos came and he didn't come down, we'll let him come down. But there are those who say if he went up on Friday and he purposely stayed up there, then he's not allowed to come down. Lamaisa, we hold it. He went up on Friday. Even if he stayed up on purpose, he's still allowed to come down because he went up when it was mutter. We allow him to come down. The knas is only if you went up on purpose on Shabbat, then we tell him to stay up there, unless he's going to fall down, whatever it is, he has to use the bathroom, whatever it is, then we will allow him to come down. Just to skip for a moment to source 33, we're on page 315. We're on page 314, we'll go to 315 for 1 minute. The Shmir Shabbat Kehilchata, he wants to say, from Rav Shlomo Zalman, tell the guy to jump, okay? Tell him to jump off, okay? So he's not on the tree. He's not going to have a problem of, right? And he says it's probably better for him to get off the tree, because the more he's on the tree, there's more of a problem him doing Tolish, right? He says if a guy sits down on the stump, right, we're going to tell him, sit there on the stump the whole day. No, get off the stump right away, right? So the same thing, he says, if you're on the tree, get off the tree right away. How do you get off? You have to jump. So I guess it really depends how high he climbs, right? If you're right, really climb really high, I don't think you want to tell him to jump. That's going to be another problem. Okay, let's go back to source 30 on page 314. Now, okay, so this is about this whole thing. We let him to come down. If he went up on Friday, that's only if the person went up. But if one left an object there while it's still day, right, and now Shabbat came in, you're not allowed to remove it. Right, that's only on a tree, he says. But for vegetables and stuff like that, soft as vegetable, like reeds that are soft as vegetables, you're allowed to touch them. Like you say, you're allowed to smell them. You're allowed to make a bracha on them. You're allowed to hold them while you're smelling them. So that would be okay. It's only the tree that is an issue. Right. It's prohibited to remove an object that is on a tree, even if it's not attached to the tree. We'll talk about that in a moment. All right, fine. The Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah brings down that
So tree house is Tzidet Dadim. And Tzidet Dadim Mutar.
is the tree house states that in?
Absolutely, yes. A tree house you build around it.
Okay, let's say it's day.
And then you have the everything not on the tree, on the something
on the
coming
stakes.
out, on the stakes. So these stakes they are Tzidet Dadim and
I hear you, but it doesn't talk about a tree house. Doesn't talk about a tree house there.
So it tells you
how you have to build it post.
You know what it tells you? It tells
Still,
you,
what about the Gzer Shem Yitlash?
No.
What about the Gzer Shem Yitlash?
Talking about
Hey, let's not. You skipped ahead. Give me a minute.
It tells you over here.
Right, that might make a difference.
Okay.
Okay.
If you have a smell, a nail on
Give me a minute.
on the ilan, and then you have a hevel kashut to the nail, you could put on the
Okay, we
hevel
talked
whatever
about
you
that.
want.
Oh,
Because
okay.
this is Tzidat Dadim.
Let's get there in a minute. Source number 32 on page 315. Hazon Ovadia writes down, what happened if a young boy, almost 13, let's say, he climbed a tree on Shabbat? Do we tell him now, Knas, stay up there the whole day?
No.
Or we can tell him to come back down? He says you can tell him to come back down, even though he's almost 13. Okay, so now, on page 316, Reb Chaim alluded to what we call sides and side of the side, okay? Which is the Gemara Masechah Shabbat. The tzadin of a tree are aser, okay? So, and the tzedei tzadin is mutar. So if you want to take a look at this beautiful picture they put here. This is from the Mishnah Berurah or Olam edition. And in here, they show you two pictures of a ladder on a tree. So if the ladder is directly on the tree, so the ladder now it's stay. It's the side of the tree. And if it's the side of the tree, so that would be us. But if I have a stake, I have a piece of metal in the tree. And now the ladder is on the stake. Okay? So the ladder, it states doesn't. It's on the side of the tree. Not directly to the tree. It's not on the side of the tree, but it's the side of the tree. It states doesn't. In such a case, it would be mutter to go on this ladder. Okay? Similarly, think about it this way. This example. I have in the tree, I have a peg. I have a peg in the tree.
Yeah.
A screw.
Exactly.
And my jacket is hanging on the
It's no good. On the peg is no good.
Why?
Because it's Dadim.
Right, because the jacket is on the stay of the tree.
Yeah.
Can I take something out of my pocket that's in the jacket?
Yeah.
Why?
That's
States doesn't. Right? So I can't take my jacket down but I can take things from the pocket down. It's studding. Okay, so that's how you have to cheshbon tonight. You have to figure it out.
But if you have a rope on this nail, what is on the tree,
so
you can put things on the rope.
On the nail.
That's the thing.
Okay, so very good. So you can't put that rope on Shabbat, but if I already have, what's the classic example? The hammock. Okay?
Yeah.
I have two trees and I have a hammock. So how is this hammock attached? If the hammock is attached directly to the tree, meaning it's tied to the tree, then it's stay. So you can't go on it. But if I have hooks or pegs or stakes into the tree, and then I have rope, right? And the hammock is now attached to the
hook.
Right. So now the hammock, it's stayed studded of the tree. And then I'm allowed to go into that hammock on Shabbat. So it all is how you have it set up. It stayed studded. So he's saying he built a tree house with stakes, and he built it on it. So now the tree house, it stayed studded. So I technically can use my tree house if there's no other worry of talish when it comes to separate anything else. So I have the treehouse stake studded, and then I have the ladder removed from the tree on a stake, right? Also on stake studded, and I climb up there. Then you're right. Then it should be okay. It's stake studded, and there's no shema yitlosh. Then perhaps yeah. But most people, the branches. Then that's yeah. Then it's one. So you wouldn't be able to do it. Well, let's say I took wood, plywood, whatever it was, and I put it in between the branches, and I just screwed it in together like that. But it's not onto the tree. There's no.
It's not on the tree.
So then that's stay, and that would be a problem. Stay stuck in is different. It depends how you build it, I guess. Okay. So that is on regarding stay and stitch stuck. Okay, fine. On the sides of the trees. Let's move on to another topic, which is potted plants. Okay? Matzitz nokov, and then you have the atzitz she'enu nokov. Right? So you have a potted plant. That's a pot that has holes in it. It's perforated. And then you have those that are not perforated, don't have holes in them.
So the one with the hole is connected to the ground.
Right.
The one without the hole is not connected.
So can I move the one that's not connected?
He says no.
Good. So it's potter avalasser. Okay, fine. So let's take a look. If a person a talish motzes nakav chayiv, then he's chayiv. B'sheinu nakav potter. Right? Shimon potter b'zev. Shimon says no, both of them are potter. And the Rambam brings down me'at sheinu nakav potter mipnei she'en ze makom gidulon. Atzitz nakav b'chtei shirish cotton harehu even has a small little hole that it can touch to the ground. So the Rambam says, if it is with a hole, it's perforated, has a hole, then it's a doraita isser, and you have to bring a chatat. Whereas if it's completely covered, there's no hole, then it's potter of a losser. Okay, it's the rabbanon. And Shulchan Aruch writes also l'talish, it's forbidden to look, right? The talosh of filu ma'atzitz she'enu nak, even if there is no hole. So you cannot take off from a planted from a potted plant anything. And says Mishnah Berurah the same idea. Mishnah Berurah brings another idea here in source number 40. He says, by the way, the hole doesn't have to be on the bottom. If I have the hole on the side and it's on the ground and it's near the ground, that's enough to be considered a d'oraita issue as well. Now the Bir Halacha says the truth is not all materials are the same. Because it says since it's on the level of the roots that are submerged into the soil, meaning that if it's on the side and it can still somehow get close to the soil, so that would be right. Okay. So, yeah, that's what he says. It has to be submerged in the soil. Okay. Now, the Bir Halacha says, by the way, even though it is perforated, even though it is not perforated, it doesn't have holes. Sheino. but it depends on the material too. We're taught that a wooden plant pot, it's considered with holes, even though it doesn't have holes. That's all. Okay. As wood absorbs moisture and draws nutrients from the ground, even though it has no holes, it's considered it has holes. And some say it's by earthenware, some say it's by woodenware. So you have these opinions. But definitely metal is not considered connected. The metal breaks it. Someone is saying, or Shabbat says, some say hard plastic is the same idea. The Chazon Ish was of the opinion that tiles in your house, it can still go through. The nourishments from the ground can go through your tile.
If you put them on the roof, it's considered to be on the.
Hey, look at Chav Aleph in 321. All right, he writes a concrete casting or tiles do not obstruct the flow of nutrients. And the Chazon Ish rules that even regular house floor tiles do not obstruct the flow. So he would say it still goes through. So you have a plant there on top of the tiles. Huh?
So what does stop according to that?
What?
What does stop?
Metal, and perhaps hard plastic. Well, today most of them are hard plastic anyway, right? Okay. Now, so anyway, it doesn't make a difference. It only make a difference if it's the right to the Rabbanon. You would still not be allowed to take anything off a potted plant. What about moving a plant pots? Okay. Sometimes you have them directly on the ground. Sometimes they have them hanging, like they have in this picture. They're hanging. Can I move it? Can I move it up or down? That's the real question. Okay. So there's a Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, in source number 43. He says, we have this case about the perforated pot. So let's say something about it. If it was placed on the ground and one lifted it to put it on top of a tripod, he's chayiv mishum tov. He separated it. Okay. If you detach it. Similarly, if he had been placed on pegs, right? Let's say it was with holes, okay? It was placed on a peg, and then I took up the tripod and I put it down to the ground. Well, then guess what? You just planted it, right? Because Lamaisa, if you move it up or down, you affect how much nutrients and nourishments the ground gives it. Further up, less. The higher up, the lower down, more. So the more I put it down, the more I'm planting it. The higher I'm bringing it up, the more I'm separating it. So I'll be chayiv both ways. Okay. Rashi wants to say in source number 44, as long as it no longer derives nourishment, it appears to me the term liable, once it's chayiv here is lavdafka, the dummy l'tolish. It's not an actual. The Rambam says no. Rambam says it is chayiv mishum tolish. It says it's a deraita moving this pot. It's a Gemara. It's a Baya in the Gemara. Okay? And now let's take a look at Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says, Atzis, afilu einu nokum. Even if it doesn't have holes, leishi zayir, you should be careful for moving it. Mal gabi karka, velanicho al gabi tedot, or ibcha, bein shehu shel eitz, bein shehu cheres. Doesn't make a difference. No holes, yes holes, made of wood, you don't move it up or down. Any potted plant. Perforated, not perforated, wood desk, you cannot move it up or down on Shabbat. Okay? Mint. So that is different. Is there earth in there?
Yeah.
People have earth in there. So are we talking that
the water?
So,
the dirt.
The one is in the dirt. So let's think about this. We're talking about it's in the house already, right? So I don't think we go with the clinician that's saying that the nutrients go through the tiles. Why? My says really go through the tiles? It's only through. Yes, that's when it's in water. That's in water. It's a good. Yeah, even on the ground. Yeah, you're allowed to move. Now I can't detach it. You can move it. Yeah. Yeah, but here we're talking about a plant. It's in the pot. We say you can't pick it up, you can't put it down. He's asking, what about if it's in the house? What about if it's in the house? It's a good question. I don't know.
If you don't move, it's no problem.
He wants to move it.
So take a look at the Orchot Shabbat. Aser like be over anicho. Kishu tali ba'avir mishum shim b'mat min kasel b'chol shkein aser anicho b'makom sheish davar achatis b'noi b'nekarka. What? We refer it as decorations.
Use it over Shabbat.
Oh, but then you're right. So the chain ain't like via atzit to menuch al haritzba. Lanicho al gabi tzlach is plastic. Al gabi shulchan shleitz. Yeah, he's chayshish for the chazanish. Or Shabbat. He's saying.
The Chazon Ish is bringing forward like if you make a cement any place in the
Plant the
dirt,
rest of the ground.
okay?
Mhm.
And you see always during the summer some plants grow in the cement because this is mechubar lakarka. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
It's mechubar lakarka. This is what exactly the Chazon says. The water goes through and mitchaber lakarka. So what? That is the same thing. He's saying they're making it from the same
Triple the
thing
bot.
like a cement. Tires. Also two times.
And the Yalkut Yosef, I'll read you the lashon of the Yalkut Yosef.
Go through the tires.
He doesn't seem to be talking about tiles floor. I mean, I'll read it. Also, little atzitz ma agabe karka b'Shabbos anichol agabe yitidot. Afilu ba'atzitz she'enu nakav. Chen lahafech. Also, laharit atzitz ma agabe yitidot anichol al haaretz ben atzitz shel eitz ben atzitz shel cheres. V'aser zeh ein minater el midrabanan. So he uses lashon al gabe karka. The Rosh Hashanah says even if it's al ritzpa. So we'll take it like that. Right. So the Rosh Hashanah says karka, and then he says al ritzpa also. You shouldn't move. You shouldn't pick it up or down from it. So the kids say, you can't move it if it has if it has dirt in it. The Yalkut Yosef brings another opinion. He says, what about he says another halacha. He says, what about if I have the plant hanging, and now I'm gonna walk in between the plant and the ground. Am I now interrupting it and separating it? So he says it's not considered to be an act of interrupting the plant's connection with the ground beneath it. Okay. I'm gonna follow up about this, Daniel. I'm gonna follow up about this moving the potted plant in the house. I'm gonna follow up on it. Okay. I don't have it clear. I'm gonna follow up on it. Okay. All right, double time. Okay. So on page 324. Rabbi Ribiat says, listen, there's too many dinim when it comes to moving potted plants on Shabbat. He says, don't do it at all. All right, that's Rabbi Ribiat's suggestion on the 39 Malachot. Because of the controversy and other halachic problems associated with moving plants, it's advisable not to move or handle any plants on Shabbat. Okay, so that's the recommendation. Don't move plants. Now we come to one halacha that is very important.
Talush is no problem. Talush. Like without dirt, just water.
Right. Okay. So let's take a look at that now. Placing flowers in water on Shabbat and Yom Tov. Okay. So there's a Gemara that says if someone Zarak Pishtan Lamayim, someone put flax seeds into water, he's hayat. My time. What's the reason? If it's because of sprouting, right, of growing, so then wheat and barley also cannot be placed in water. So rather, Gemara says it's lisha, it's lush. So the Rambam, quoting this Gemara, the Rambam says, "Hashayr chitim sa'arim b'chiyotzahem b'mayim hareze tola zoreya b'chay b'chol shul." The Gemara said because of lisha, and the Rambam says because of zoreya. So this question was actually asked to the Rambam during his lifetime. There was a Rosh Yeshiva named Shmuel Schatz, and he wrote.
What do you mean during his lifetime?
The Rambam put this out. The Rambam put out the Hilchot Shabbat, and during the Rambam's lifetime, someone asked the question and sent it to him. Okay. So the Rambam now in his Tzurba, he answers this question, and he says, "Listen, you got to read my Rambam correctly, okay?" Right. It's exactly when it happened. So the Rambam says, listen, the Gemara is talking about Zara. The guy threw the flaxseed into there, meaning that it was there for a very short period of time. There's obviously no sprouting, there's no Zareah, there's no growing there. Therefore, the Gemara says it's Asr Mishum Lisha, some lush. That's the issue of it. But I'm talking, he says, and I'm soaking it. I'm leaving it there for a long time. If you're leaving it in there for a long time, then yes, that's going to be an issue of Zorea. That's going to be an issue of sprouting, of growing on Shabbat. Okay, so that's the Rambam's chilik between putting it in there for whatever short little period of time or leaving it in there and soaking it up in there. Take a look at the Shulchan Aruch and source number 52 on page 327. And he writes, right, even for a little bit, because the Zarei doesn't even have to grow so much, as long as it's able to sprout somewhat, it's already be a problem. Now, the Ramah brings a mutter l'hamid anfei ilanot b'mayim b'Shabbat. You're allowed to put tree branches in water on Shabbat, provided any flowers or roses that will open up.
But it says in Shabbat, on Shabbat.
So, and then he says, go take a look in Siman Tuf Reish Nun Daled. Where is that? In Archaim? Which Hilchos is that? Hilchos of Sukkah. Okay, it's a Sukkot of Lulav, of storing your Lulav. All right, so here is your third connection to Sukkah in this week's Hilchot Shabbat. Okay, so the Mishnah, Masechet Sukkah, some background information, what the Ramah is pointing out to. Here's the Mishnah, Masechet Sukkah, that says, an Isha, a woman, can take the lulav from her husband or her children, and she can put it, she can put it back into water on Shabbat. Rabbi Yehuda says, and we ask him like Rabbi Yehuda says, but Shabbat machziran, we can return it. But Yom Tov, mosifin, you can add water. Uvimo and Chol Hamoed machlifin, you can change the water. Okay, that's the source in Masechet Sukkah.
This is all for flowers, right?
Putting the lulav, just talking about a lulav.
The lulav.
Talking about a lulav.
So,
Very good. Yeah.
but I don't understand. If you're saying this for the lulav, if you're saying this for lulav, what lulav has to do with Shabbat?
Okay, so let's take a look. Hold on. Now, first, Rabbeinu Chananel says, what's the reason you can't add water on Shabbat? Why are you saying only you can return it to the water? He says, you add water, then it's like zareh. It looks like you're planting. Okay, if you're adding water. Unless if you're just returning it, you're just putting it back where it came from. Rashi wants to say that it's more like matakin mana. You're fixing it up by putting new water in it.
In the Yom Tov.
On Shabbat. Talking about Shabbat. On Shabbat, he said you can return it to the water that it was in. But you can't add water to it.
You're saying it's talking about lulav. What lulav has to do with Shabbat?
Okay,
Shabbat,
so let's see. It's all connected. Let's see. Now, says the Mishnah Berurah.
We're talking about.
Let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. That what? The Sham. When the Ramah said, look what I wrote in Tuf Reish Nun Daled, he's saying as follows: the Einu Mutter b'Shabbos ki im lahachzer b'mayim she'amdaboy michvar be'erev Shabbat the lola hosiv old mayim tzanonim, but you cannot add more. So when the Ramah wrote that you can put branches into water on Shabbat, he meant to return to water on Shabbat.
Right.
That's what the Ramah meant, right? Okay. And according to this, what the Shulchan Aruch wrote before, that placing tree branches in water is permitted, means that one may return them to the water on Shabbat, even though they're already removed from the water, and not that one may place them in the water for the first time. That's the way Mishnah Berurah is learning this. But then there's some Achronim that say that Shesarvin the Mistama Mechaber Mashma that Filu Chatchila Mutter Lamidam. Not that if it was in the water already before Shabbat, now I'm returning it on Shabbat. No. It was never in the water on Shabbat, but the water was prepared before Shabbat. I'm still allowed to go put it back. Some Achronim want to say like that. Now, but it's already prepared from beforehand. That's perhaps maybe only by lulav, adding more water, but I'm not adding water. The water is there. I prepared the water. Rashi says because I'm adding water, that's the mitakin money. Here the water is already there. It's prepared. I just didn't put it in yet. Maybe that's what they're being mechalik. Okay. Now the Orchot Shabbat says, by the way, all this branch putting in, that's only if the flowers are already open. If the flowers they come like closed and you put them in the water and they're going to open up, then you can't do that. That's the tool. Whatever it's going to open up, that's going to be a problem. Okay, now the Chavedat Hamavadia takes this with a whole other spin, and Chavadi wants to say that L'maisa, you can take flowers that never were in the water, but the water wasn't prepared, and you can prepare the water, put it in, everything on Shabbat, and put the flowers inside. As long as it's already open, not that they're closed. As long as it's already open. So, how does he get to this? He says there's a Rashba. There's a Rashba that says, you know why the whole reason over here by the lulav, we only allowed you to put it into water and not add new water and not put water? Because first of all, on Shabbat, what are you using the lulav for? You're not using the lulav on Shabbat. You're not using the lulav on Shabbat. So you're only doing it to keep it nice and beautiful, so the mitzvah will be nice. So in that case,
Well, in Shabbat. What do you mean the lulav in Shabbat?
So let's say he came back. Well, the Gemara doesn't say when he came back. Let's say he came back Friday. The Mishnah is Makabel Ishas Miyad Banu Miyad Ba'ala. Can't we say the case is? Can't we say he came home Friday afternoon for late Friday evening? By the time she put it back, it was already Shabbos. You can say that. He doesn't say it's not. So he wants to say the whole reason you can't use it. You're not using this lulav on Shabbat. There's no enough from. There's nothing. It's just to keep it nice for the mitzvah. So therefore, he writes, you only allowed to put it back, but that's not true. So let's read here. That they only prohibit placing lulav in water for the first time on Shabbat because moving it is not appropriate. You can't move it. But regarding tree branches, which are ready from before Shabbat and are permitted for use by smelling them and the like, it is also permitted to place them in water for the first time on Shabbat, since moving them is permitted. Therefore, it appears to me it's also permitted to place in water in a vase in order to place fragrant branches in it, since it's appropriate to smell them, and it's permitted to move them. There's no prohibition against making an effort to bring water, place in a vessel, and place the branches in it so that they will not dry up. So a question that was once asked to me was, a guy comes to your house for Shabbat, right? And he comes
with flowers,
and they came late. It's already Shabbat. Can you put it into the vase? Flowers are open. Can you put it into the vase? Can you put water in the vase and then put the flowers inside? Yes, you would be allowed to. You would be allowed to. Ashkenazim, with their what the halacha, they would not be allowed to. So what would you do? So what would you do? What would you do if you're an Ashkenaz fellow? You want to be more machmir? What would you do? So I tell you what, most of your archim are not going to look inside to see if there's water in the vase. You take the vase. You take the vase. You put the flowers in there. Put it at a little distance. Everyone's going to be very happy. Okay, because they're not going to see from far. You have in there water. You don't have in there water. But let's see over here. Let's read the lashon of the Yalkut Yosef. One may place fragrant twigs and myrtle branches into the vase of water on Shabbat, or to prepare a vase with water and then insert the myrtle and twigs. It's certainly permissible to add water to a vase with such twigs or myrtle already in it. But then he writes about the flowers with the buds, and if they're closed, you shouldn't put them in it. He says one who refrains from inserting flowers in the water, even if they're already open, he'll get a special bracha if he doesn't put flowers that are already open. The water, so he says that it is a good thing to be a little bit machmer. And we'll end off with this final halacha that's brought down in the Yalkut Yosef. He writes, one may open the windows and shutters on Shabbat to let in fresh air, even though there are planters with plants and flowers in the house, and their growth is stimulated by opening the windows. Technically, it's permissible to open windows and shades, even if the plants are on the windowsill. But anyone who refrains from doing so in such a case will receive a special blessing from heaven. Okay, so these are the halachot of the outdoors, so to speak, which is very, very negeya. And as we're starting the holiday of Sukkot, so probably be good to review this once more. And there's a beautiful review in the end, pages 333 to the end. And if you have time, please go over it. Just a side note, we finished the volume 19, Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did 16, 17, 18, 19. We did 4. We have a total of 7 for Shabbat. So we have 3 more to go. We're going to have to... when we finish this one, or we finish all 7? Maybe over Sukkot. It's a good idea. No, maybe one day of Chol Hamoed we can make a shiyam with the barbecue.
No water.
What? Have a sukkah. Only men have to sit there. All the ladies can be on the outside. Don't worry. Anyone else wants to come outside? Okay. And so what it does mean to me is that we have to purchase volume 20. Okay, so we need sponsors to help with this. I'm gonna say Chag Sameach to all of you on the line. I just want to say something